Okay, these are rough field notes, but so I have this. You can see here we have the VMware vCenter server standalone. I downloaded it to this Dell desktop, and we're using this external drive to store the virtual machine. Now this is not the best plan, but in this case the virtual machine will be here, and that way it can be put in a vault or transported or taken wherever you need to take it. Or if you had to ship it, securely, it would work. So we've already logged in here, and the screen before this, you had to upload the software for cloning to the 2003 Gargoyle server, which is here. So here's the physical machine. Fortunately now, the RAID array is stabilized. She's all green. One of the drives are bad. One trick, if you have to get drives to replace any of these servers, even these old ones, especially old servers, make sure you get a couple, because you're always going to get a bad drive. My first drive I got from Amazon was bad. The two I got from Ben Lyon at GHA, who's always a great resource, his is working. I have one spare. That one in there is bad, but I have one good spare. I have to get some more. Always have more than one. Okay, so now we're logging in to Ilco Security 1, which is this computer here, and this is the share that we made on the external Toshiba USB drive. Now this is going to be really slow, and most people say that I wouldn't want to do it that way. I just don't have this is the resources I have, so I'm going to make use of them. Alright, so now we're going to go here, and so when we create a virtual machine, we're not like erasing this machine at all. We'll actually have two copies of this machine. We'll have the actual physical machine and a software copy. And and to a user perspective, depending on the performance you have running the virtual machine, they can't really know the difference. So we'll hit next. Verifying the destination parameters. Now it's telling us here we've got advanced options that we can edit. I might actually go up here and edit this, and I'm going to tell it not to do this virtual disk here, this H. Alright, I don't want that H, because it's an archive file. This is an unusual circumstance. When they built this machine, that H drive is on here, and it's for archive, and it's really kind of squirrely how they did it. So I'm going to say, when you create my virtual machine, don't create this H drive. And what I'm going to do, I'll recreate the H drive after the virtual machine's built, and then I'll copy the data over that way. Now this is unusual what I'm doing here. Normally you would just take all the parameters, but I'm just showing you that you can edit. And in this case, this H drive, when I tried it before, it failed. So we're just going to skip that. We're just going to make the C drive, and we'll come back later and fill this in. All right, again, normally you would not do this. You would just take it as is. But if you try to create a virtual machine and maybe you have a corrupt partition, but you want to get some of the machine back up, this is what you would do. I'm basically going to have this machine created. It's going to be it's going to be a copy of the Gargoyle, except I'm going to exclude this H partition, which is problematic. Again, this is a 13-year-old server. I'm just showing you can configure the server differently when you build it this way. So we'll go to next. Tells us everything. Here's the powered on machine. Powered on machine is 10003. That's Gargoyle there. Connected as the domain administrator's Windows. Virtual machine name will be Gargoyle IndianaLimestone.com. It tells you where it's backing everything up. Number of CPUs, physical memory, everything there. All looks good. Now notice down here, you can synchronize changes that occurred during cloning. We're going to say no, but you could do that. If something happens, it would go back and it keep truing up and truing up, but that can take a long time. On this server, we're not going to worry about synchronizing changes during cloning. You notice you can install tools on the destination or the virtual software machine We're not going to do that. You can customize the guest OS. We're not going to do that. And this is default. Remove, restore checkpoints, reconfigure virtual machine. So we're allowing that. So we're going to hit finish. It's going to submit the job. And you can see it's running here. Now the estimated time, well, it's always a misnomer, I think, with these older versions. But in a little bit, as this starts calculating, we'll get a real truer message. Now, after I get this one copy of this virtual machine, I'll probably do another copy, and I'll try to get that H drive the second time around. But I just want to get a good copy of the core system and its data so I can resurrect it if I need to. But last time I tried, that H partition, I don't know what they did. It blew up. So this is going to be a slightly different virtual machine we're going to create. It's going to be Gargoyle in every respect. Excuse me. It just won't have that H drive. But again, we can make 50 copies of Gargoyle here. It doesn't matter. So we're going to try it this way. Then I'll try to get the whole machine with the H drive, and then we'll see what happens. So you can use this as a very simple way of backing up servers. This is kind of like the poor man's backup system, because we're taking a physical machine, the actual physical machine here, and we're kind of backing it up as a virtual machine over here, and we'll have the data. So you could bring this back online, maybe in an isolated network, or with a different IP address, although there would be a conflict of the names. So you'd have to bring it up, change its name, change its IP address. There may be licensing issues, and then from there, you could restore data down to a share to get it back to the other server. So there's a lot of, I just wanted to show you, there's a lot of, this is a fantastic tool to know about. Now the version I'm using is older, you get a much newer version. And this is just the simplest way to do a virtual machine copy. This is how you would do a virtual machine copy if you don't have VMware infrastructure. You just have a PC, which is what I have in this case. We do have infrastructure, but it's kind of old and I just don't want to chance it. But if you want to do this at home or a lab, or you're at a business where people don't have a lot of tech, a good solid desktop computer with downloading the VMware Center, and then you download VMware Player, and you could play this machine on you could play this machine as well. Playing means you just run it and it would run there as a virtual machine. Now again, if you have a big database server and you're trying to run it on a desktop, that's not going to work out. So this will, I would assume this will take 8 hours because of the speed of what I'm doing. Now once we have that machine, if this all works out, you can simply highlight this and you can make a copy right here. You can make another copy, so you can actually change it. You can preserve your copy, make another copy, make changes, and see what happens. So this is a very good tool to know about, VMware vCenter Converter. Again, you could do it for someone at home. If someone has a laptop, you can make a virtual copy of that laptop and keep it on like an external drive. And if their laptop blows up or something happens, you could run that laptop inside another machine with a virtual player. Now going from virtual back to physical, you can do that, but it's a lot more tricky. Okay, and I don't really, with this technology I have here, I don't really have the capability of doing it easily. But going from physical to virtual is very easy. And again, you're not erasing this at all. You're preserving this. It can still run. This can just be a backup. You can copy this when it's done and make 50 copies of the virtual machine. You saw how that we actually altered the virtual machine to have a slightly different configuration before we built it. And that the H drive, which is problematic on that partition, we're going to go back into the virtual machine, make a copy, and pull that data in. I'm going to run another job and try to get the whole server intact later after I get this. I just want to get this under my belt, because again, I tried it earlier and it failed on the H partition. It made it on the C partition, which in this case, which is unusual, they set the server up very unusual. The C partition there has all the data I need. The H partition is, I'm not sure how they've done it, and it really was for archive and backup purposes. But again, having a backup on the same server doesn't make any sense. because if the server dies, so does the backup. In this case, we're going to make a virtual copy here. So this, all this configuration here is building the copy of that physical machine. And you really only need VMware vCenter Converter Standalone. That might be a slight different name. And then you need the VMware Player, and that could play this virtual machine. And you can turn on virtual machines so they have no network access, so you don't conflict with the live machine. You can see, yeah, everything's working, but you would log in through the player. You turn off its network card so it doesn't conflict. You say, yeah, all the data's there, I've got everything. Now I have a backup. I can move that backup up to Google or to SharePoint or OneDrive in the cloud or to an external drive. And now I have a good solid backup of a server, a desktop, or a laptop. So I hope this helps understand what we're doing here. And this all got triggered because this old machine started failing. But the good news is, the very good news is now she's stabilized, because you see she's all green here. This is a real old style array, but she's all green now. So, and I'm not sure why that green light doesn't work. I don't know if it's burnt out or it's not in the array. And I have a spare. This one actually is one that failed. I have a spare over there I can put in. I really prefer Dell servers over HP servers. I have to say that. I really have come to that conclusion that for a lot of smaller businesses, Dell servers are better. They're just better. They're easier to handle. They're more forgiving. All right, so I hope this helps. This understands how to how to make a copy. It says convert here, but really it should say copy, because convert I think when I first saw it, I thought, well, what's going to happen to my original machine? Nothing. It's just making a software copy of it that you can run anywhere. So you can take this server home, running on using VMware Player, which is a piece of free software you get from VMware, or Hypervisor for Microsoft. You could run this at home. All right, I hope that helps.